Going on, people? Happy Saturday morning. No full pod for you today. Just a little bounce around news and notes and nuggets, some other things here on a Saturday morning. I'm on the go. So before I head out to work, wanted to get into just a few things going on around sports and otherwise. The first thing is I am so happy going back a couple of days for Ron Washington, getting this gig with the Angels. I had the pleasure of getting to cover and be around that Ranger team in 2010 and 2011 every day in the postseason for both of those runs with them during some really, really cool times. We did a documentary one spring training where I spent a week kind of behind the scenes riding buses in spring training and spending time with that team and with those players, and did some really, really cool stuff when I was with SiriusXM covering the Rangers. So getting to know Wash and spending some time in those little golf carts in spring training with him, and just seeing his sense of humor and his personality, watching the way he resonated with players. Obviously, we all remember the hand on the shoulder with Derek Holland in Game 4, but everything that he did and was, and then seeing him translate all of that knowledge, especially in the infield and on defense, and the impact that he has had. I don't know if people really truly understand the players that he's completely changed. And I'll give you two that are huge, big time players now. One playing second base currently, and the other one is a shortstop who just won a Gold Glove at shortstop. But both who defensively have completely turned their careers in a different direction, in large part because of Ron Washington and his work with them. One, Marcus Semien, when Wash was in Oakland. And I remember watching one day in spring training when I was out there covering, doing our spring training tour, watching Wash work with Semien on his footwork constantly, footwork. And Semien as a shortstop. I know he's playing second base now because they have Seager on the team. But man, I mean, completely turned it around, cut down all the errors, was so much better defensively. Credits Wash for so many things. Dansby Swanson, the same thing. And you can go on and on with what he's done here in Atlanta. I mean, the glowing comments from Alex Anthopoulos say all you need to hear. Was I surprised? Because Wash has been up for some jobs over the last couple of years and hasn't gotten them. Was I surprised that he beat out Buck Showalter? I was. Once I heard Buck was in the running, I thought Buck would get the job. I mean, for whatever people want to say about Buck, and some of the control that he wants, or maybe with certain GMs kind of it doesn't work, or maybe it doesn't wears out its welcome, or whatever kind of things people want to put on it. This is a dude who just won 101 games in immediate fashion when joining the New York Mets, and everybody wants to go ahead and put now what happened this past year on him. But let's be fair, guy could still win. You look at those Orioles teams, they never really prescribe to the or subscribe to the prospects are cool, parades are cooler. They basically held on, hoarded, never pushed at deadlines and off seasons, and that's why they sat there on the doorstep as many years as they did. That and the fact that Jim Johnson failed and gave up I don't even know how many home runs to Raul Ibanez in one of those postseasons. But Buck Showalter, for all the big mistake that he did make, obviously, with Ubaldo Jimenez and Zach Britton, for the most part, put that team in a position to win. So when I heard that Buck was, down to that finalist level for this spot, I thought it would be his gig. So I was a little bit surprised by that, but I'm so happy that Ron Washington got this job. Wash is one of the most beloved people in the sport, and I'm glad that he gets an opportunity. Obviously, wish him the best. And for the Angels, it's going to be a different kind of a show now because we know Ohtani not going back there. And we'll get into plenty of Ohtani, obviously, as we go on here in the weeks to come. Plenty of podcasts on it, just like everybody else is going to be all over Ohtani. So will we here in the coming weeks. So we'll hold that for now. But I'm pumped for Wash. Second thing is, I think it was Buster yesterday who had out, he called it, I think he said 100% chance that Juan Soto gets traded. I've been hearing the same things as in terms of, the Padres feeling like they may be backed into a corner and not have a choice to do this. I think we need to really go back and revisit the expenditures of money in now a couple of different machinations that the Padres have made with AJ Preller. It really is crazy. I mean, I remember being back at winter meetings, I don't even know how many years ago, in San Diego when they got Kemp and Yasmani Grandal, and was it Upton that year? I think it was, and I can't remember who else. and was it Kimbrel maybe? And they had gone out and spent all this money. And the next thing you know, by the end of that year, they're being asked to sell the team off. He doesn't want to do it because they don't want to admit that they're bad. There were 6.5 games out of a spot. Then I think they lost Upton without as a free agent. Maybe the situation was, maybe it was a year that follows, whatever the case is. I mean, we all the money that they have spent, it's stupid. Then they kind of get a restart, now bump back in with huge dollars. And you think about some of the moves that they've made and some of the money that they'd spent, Machado and Hosmer and on down the line. And now obviously, having Soto and, making that move to bring him in, this would be a guy you would think would be worth that money to go and spend on and to make that deal happen. But it is really, really difficult when you look at that player and that agent and that combo. And we talked about this with Pete Alonso a couple of days ago. It is very, very difficult to go ahead and then to get that guy to stay away from that free agent market and go and sign with you before the end of the season, before he knows what he's worth, before he can get into that bidding war, before he gets to kind of see that opportunity that he's waited his whole life for, which for everybody to bid on him and spend millions of dollars. So um, they may be backed into a corner, quite frankly, and then it'll be interesting to see what teams are able to give enough to make the Padres then go make that deal, and then what kind of egg on the face going to be there for San Diego once that deal is made with that fan base, because, oh my, who the hell knows at this point, honestly. And we'll see what happens with the managerial situation and all of that. Meanwhile, Bob Melvin introduced officially. It just seems all sorts of right that he's back in the Bay Area. I mean, I understand that things did not work out in San Diego. I get that he and Preller did not kind of get along, but Bob Melvin's the genuine article. This guy's a real deal, steady heartbeat, seemingly has no emotion, positive or negative, and as a balance in the force, if you will, in a long baseball season, that has a lot of advantageous things that come with it. We'll see how he works with Farhan Zaidi here in this next turn with the San Francisco Giants. We'll follow that. Meanwhile, got to dip this in here because I probably do some pods on hockey coming up. But even if you're not a hockey fan, a lot of you are fans and diehards of a team. I've talked about this for many, many years. Obviously, yes, I am a Met fan. I've been a Met fan my whole life. But I also, in covering baseball for 20 years, it kind of took me off of that diehard, like crazy train of you feeling the same insanity. I'm a diehard New York Giants fan, football fan. Clearly, they're terrible this year, but I can take it. But football is different. It's not the investment that baseball is for me. It's not the investment that hockey is for me, or basketball, where I'm a Knicks fan. But I've said this plain as day. I mean, since I'm a kid, my favorite team, when I say by far, I mean by a good margin, is the New York Islanders. It's been that way. It's the one team where I still will lose my mind and throw things and not be able to kind of, hold my tongue and all of that. It's probably the only team in which I fit in that category as a fan, to be honest with you, sitting here in my mid 40s. And I'm sitting here and watching this team, and I'm just disgusted. I mean, we talk about the change in managers in baseball and some of the things that we're discussing in terms of leadership, right? And Bruce Bochy and all of that. Barry Trotz, not for nothing. I mean, that's the same kind of guy like a Boch is. This is a culture changer. This is a guy who does all of that, changes your franchise. And he did it. And they had him. They had him. They had no business going to back-to-back conference finals, once losing it in Game 6 of the Lightning, the next year in 2021 using Game 7 of the Lightning. I've talked about this before, but in my entire life, the most emotionally invested runs any team I've ever rooted for have ever been on, and for two kind of totally different reasons, if I'm being fair. We're in 2020 and 2021 with those two teams. They will mean more to me, those two runs, than any team moving forward the rest of my life in any sport or moving backward. And they didn't even win it. And I've been around and watched teams that I've rooted for who have won the whole thing. I mean, a kid who was a diehard. I had the blessing of going through that run when I'm 8 years old of the 1986 Mets. Nothing will compare for me for 2020 and 2021 ever. They literally ever. And what those runs meant to me during those times in my life. And the fact still that Barry Trotz is not the coach of this team is a disaster. Lane Lambert has the personality of a tree. I mean, the guy literally could not motivate anyone to do a damn thing anywhere. The press conferences make me nauseous. I cannot deal with it anymore. And the fact that Lou Lamoriello is 107 years old, God bless him, one of the great architects ever, but it's like he built the Louvre. That's how long ago it was. The fact that this guy let Barry Trotz go is a disgrace. I'll get into that more in a deeper podcast at some point. But as you can tell, I'm a little heated about it. Team is, I mean, they're just, I don't even know if they're terrible. They're mediocre. They lost 3 in a row. They'll go win 4 in a row. What are they, 5-5-3 or something like that? I mean, this is who they are. I can't stand it. Drives me nuts. And I love hockey as a sport as much as I love baseball. And it drives me crazy. Do you guys have a situation like that with your teams and your coaches and your managers? Hit me up in the comments. Let me know. Let me know. What else? So I said I would bring quotes. I dropped the one that I dropped a couple of days ago on Twitter, and I've referenced this one before. The Oprah Winfrey thing, and I'm just trying to think of exactly what the word verbiage is, but it's something, anybody can ride with you in the limo. You want the people who ride with you on the bus when the limo breaks down. I have, if there's, a lot of times we learn lessons in the wrong ways, and it's, that's what lessons are, right? Even when you're a kid, and they're lessons like for my kids too. I think when you do stupid things as a kid, I mean, that's how you kind of you learn the right and the wrong way. You learn those mistakes. You learn that word regret, that ugly word, right? So I think you have to go through certain things to be able to really have them resonate with you. But that quote has always resonated with me just so profoundly. And I'm sure it does for some of you and everybody in their own way. But the dig down to the core meaning of it is an unfortunate one in life. And, it doesn't, even though it references a limo, it doesn't have to be about money. It doesn't have to be necessarily about success. It could be just when you're happy and when things are good for you personally. No matter what it means to you, basically it is as follows. It is going to be easier for people to show you all of their care and all of their love and all of their support when things are going well for you, because that is when you're going to have value for them. But it's when you can't give them anything except yourself, and they are there with that support. Those people, when that bus breaks down, when that limo breaks down riding the bus, those are the people in your life. The sad thing is, a lot of us are going to learn sometimes those are very, very few and far between people. I mean, I have no problem saying, and a lot of stuff I don't say out loud, but I have no problem saying that for me, I can tell you that when I was doing the NBA finals and working at Turner and had the national radio show and was doing March Madness and all that in 2019, I I couldn't I couldn't turn the phone off, right? Now the only person who calls me is my mother. So life changes that way when you can't do things for people, when you are not financially wealthy or successful or can help the grow or whatever the case may be, right? Or sometimes for you, no matter who you are, right? Male, female, old, young, it could be just you're not feeling well, you're mentally in a state where you're in depression or anxiety, or you're going through something, or you're going through changes, or you're getting into college and those anxieties. It could be anything, right? And in those moments, those people who stick there and are sticking by you, that's the difference maker people in your whole life. And that's why it is probably my second favorite quote of all time. And it's become that here over the last 3-4 years for me. But that Oprah quote that says, it's not about the people who ride with you in the limo. It's about the people who ride with you on the bus when the limo breaks down. Find those people in your life. Find Unfiltered at the Believe Network. Get on Twitter, artist formerly known, X if you will, at Casey Stern. Hop on, get into the bio. And of course, that's where you'll find where you're watching now, our YouTube channel. Jump on, tell your friends, like, comment on the videos, share them, give me any thoughts that you have, and we'll continue to ride this thing right here on our beautifully built bus known as Unfiltered. See you next time.